morning.
Hi, good morning. We're ready to start today's work session for July 12th, 2000.
Lights not on.
It's not on.
It's okay, we're starting. For 2018, if we can stand for the pledge. Dawn, you wanna lead us?
Sure.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Mr. Wootson will be out today, and we'll start today's meeting with the Veterans Committee yearly update, if you'd like to come up and join us. And we are on camera, so we ask you to introduce yourself first, just so.
Oh, okay, Liz Stokes. Kimberly Judd Burns.
Almost no introduction necessary.
I know, I can't go anywhere in this town.
Thank you.
Good morning. Miss Thomas, did she get in? She disappeared, okay.
She'll
Coming back.
she'll come back.
Okay.
So thank you guys very much for joining us. I know that we had asked a bunch of the committees to come in and give yearly updates, so thank you very much for coming in to do this.
You're welcome. You know, the Veterans Committee is fairly a new committee to this town. And we discovered that, a few years back, there was a need to, get a message out to all of our veterans that, contact the town. We have resources that we can help you with. Veterans were made promises across this country and this town, and those promises were broken. We discovered that a few years back. We did a dinner, welcoming home, Persian Gulf veterans, called Operation Forever Grateful. At that dinner, Vietnam veterans also were invited. We sort of got a big picture of the hurt that was in this town from our local veterans. And with that in mind, on the heels of that, it was decided to start a Veterans Committee. So the first thing Kim and I did was to set up a resource fair where we could find out exactly what the veterans needed in this town. It was set up with legal services, medical services, housing services. So we provided them with that. They were also given the applications from the assessor's office. They were explained about that. So we made the bridge, so to speak. Then we talked to veterans afterwards, and we found out, where are you hurting? What can we do as the committee with this town that would help you? Well, we found out that veterans are not covered for dental, any kind of dental. I thought that was outrageous. I called Northport myself, and they said, well, they can go to Somerville Clinic. I said, these guys are in Riverhead with a toothache. No. So, there's a few other things. Where do they get their computers repaired? Where can they get discount haircuts? Things like that. So we began calling some of the businesses in town to see what they could offer our veterans. And that gave birth to the Riverhead Town Veterans Discount Card. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Okay, so the first question was, well, we have no budget, as has been here, so, the card was designed by a female veteran, an Iraqi war veteran, free of charge.
Someone from Riverhead?
She was your former town board coordinator, Carissa Collins.
Oh, okay.
So she volunteered to
Good to
design.
give her a shout out.
Okay. Then to find a printer who would help us with this, which was Minuteman Press. He's an Army, retired veteran. And then how are we gonna pay for it? So, an anonymous donor came forward and paid the printing job, for $2,500. Discount cards did not wanna be acknowledged, and he did so in memory of the unknown soldier. So I accepted that as a gift. Then what we had to do is to get a letter out to every single veteran that we knew of who resided in this town. So how else do you do that? You go by the assessor's list for the names and addresses. exemptions, which is public record. So, so we did that, we developed a letter to reach everybody, to tell them who we are as a committee, tell them about the discount card, and to offer any other services that we might be of help to in this town.
Did you come up with a number by any chance? I'm just curious.
2,500.
2,500.
2,500.
I think Columbia Care donated the
Yes,
stamps
now
for that,
Columbia
right, for those
Care,
letters?
the next thing was, how are we gonna buy stamps? You know, we have no budget. So, I happened to be at the grand opening for Columbia Care, and they, I explained to them who I was, and they said, well, the VA won't approve this, you know, as a treatment for PTSD. I said, someday they will. He said, whatever else we can do for this committee, please. And I said, well, we just happened to need postage stamps. So they bought the stamps and then gave it to us. So it's all been like a labor of love for our veterans.
Yeah.
Once we reached our veterans with the letter, everything opened up. We have given out to date a little bit over 2,100 discount cards. What I found out from the veterans is even by showing this card, wherever they go in town, whether they're on this list for a discount or not, the merchant usually says, oh, sure, I'll give you a discount. Some merchants didn't wanna be listed on this list because they didn't wanna be bombarded by other organizations, like, in like other avenues. And I said, that's fine, you know, but you will be seeing this card. We developed an agreement that the merchant can, and done by the town attorney, the merchant can pull out at any time. And we appreciate, you know, what they've done so far. These are kept on file with the town.
Okay.
And then here's a list of.
So if anybody is interested who may not be on the list, who's
Correct.
interested, they can just
Correct.
call up through town here and they can
Yep,
be added to
yep,
the list. Very good.
Here's a
As long as
list,
they're getting an exemption,
right,
and they have to show their DT
yes, yep, veterans have to show a
DT
214 papers and proof that they're a resident in this town.
Right, but I mean, this is
This is for the merchants,
for the
correct.
merchants,
That's
right?
for the
Correct,
merchants,
so
yep,
if there's
yep.
a merchant out there that is
Correct,
interested
correct,
in
correct.
offering a discount, they can just.
I try to hit new merchants also, and, my usual speech is, welcome to Riverhead. Veterans are our heart. How would you like to help our veterans? And some will say straight out no, and I'll say, that's okay, I'll come back. And usually in about a month or 2 months, I come back, and they're like, oh, sure, well, you know, so. Here's a list of the merchants to date, that are given discounts.
Maybe some will watch today and
Yeah,
decide,
so,
give a discount.
and here's a copy of the letter that went out to.
That was from former Councilman John
Yeah.
Dunleavy.
And here's a copy of the letter that went out to all the veterans.
Has John stayed on the committee?
He's been, I've invited him to come, you know, as our, you know.
He was gone for a while.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
gone for a while, but I'd love to, what we did find out was, in this town, so where are all these veterans, okay? Well, a lot of our 55 and older complexes have their own veterans associations within there,
Okay.
and they pretty much take care of themselves. Now, Saddle Lake, Sunken Ponds, and here's that other one, Willow, something.
Willow Lake.
Okay, Willow Lake. They've invited me, I've gone to speak there to their veterans.
Glenwood too, you went to Glenwood.
Yeah, I went to Glenwood, I've been to Foxwood. The condo complexes, the Saddle Lakes, although I handed out a few cards, the majority of them didn't want the cards, and they said, we really appreciate what the town's doing, but we feel we can take care of ourselves, so please give these cards to other veterans who need it. So there's a little level of honor going on out there. Calverton Meadows in, Calverton, fabulous amount of veterans there. And the question arose, do you belong to the VFW, do you belong to, because we have those members on our committee. No, we don't, we're okay. So in this town, we have the Veterans Post, we have the American Legion Post, and then we have these other veterans organizations within these complexes. And they're in constant contact with us. A big thing with the veterans in this town was transportation to Northport, which is still a thorn in my side. we have the veterans, outlet over at the county center, but there are things that clinic cannot do.
I have a question,
Sure.
the van is what, disabled
Okay,
veteran,
yes,
yeah,
Yes, and they must, I recommended somebody get that ride. He needed to go to Northport to have his hearing tested. He didn't wanna drive that far, so I offered to drive him. He said, no, I don't wanna put you out. Nobody could take him from the VFW or the American Legion, which I asked. So
But they have volunteered, those two organizations.
They have
They
volunteer
have
drivers.
volunteered to
Yeah.
take, vets
So I contacted
Northport.
Disabled Veterans of America, which do send this van around, but what I didn't know is this poor 80-something-year-old veteran had to get up at 5:30 in the morning, cause the van was picking him up 6:15, and his appointment was at 11, but he had to stay there the whole day until everybody's appointment got done.
cause I actually had called
Oh,
them to
because
find
of the
out, about that, even for a van from here over to, the complex over for where, you know, even just for those,
Right,
for those
correct,
for
right.
rides, and I was told that it was much easier than that, so in actuality, it is
It's
not
not,
as
it's not.
simple as that, okay.
I did place a call to Hampton Jitney, and my speech to them was, have you ever heard of Honor Flight? Yes, I said, well, that's where, you know, airlines, said, we're gonna fly down World War II veterans to see the memorial. Yes, I have. Well, what do you think of Honor Ride? Well, we haven't heard of that. I said, well, that would be a luxury liner bus company that would be willing to donate a bus twice a month, your driver, of course, but it would be named Honor Ride. And you would be picking up veterans from all the stops that you do now for your trips, taking them down to Northport, allowing them to go for their appointments. My theory is, yeah, they might still have to wait all day, but they're being transported in a luxury liner, in a fancy bus. There is air conditioning, there's
bathroom.
snacks. They're treated with the level of dignity that they should be treated with.
Would Northport be agreeable to have everybody scheduled on the same day?
I didn't get that far, I wanted to get the bus first. I
So
worked through
yeah,
Northport.
so what happened?
And, no, at that time, I still call every once in a while, and I'm just hoping that they understand that the PR for themselves would be $1 million worth of PR, that they're doing this.
There's a competitor of theirs, Hampton's.
Hampton Luxury Line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't try there, but I had almost convinced that 7 bus, but then they left town.
Now, let me just ask you,
Okay.
when you spoke to them, were they the hub? Because now that Riverhead is their hub,
No,
Maybe
we
they
weren't the
might-
hub, yeah, so that's an
maybe
idea,
they would
yeah, when I called
reconsider
back.
now they're
Yeah, and it could be called
town.
Honor Ride.
Mhm.
They could get retired veterans from VFW, American Legion, to maybe go as chaperones in this bus, so that these veterans aren't like lost in the sauce when they get to Northport, which seems to be the problem. The van pulls up, there's nobody to guide them, like what happened with this veteran that was lost, that wandered off.
So they need an advocate to go with.
Exactly, so I'm hoping, I keep trying, you know, so I'm not gonna give up, and, I realize Riverhead does not have the means, you know, to transport people down to Northport, you know, that would be, but somebody that has a business who would directly benefit from this PR just might.
Or
So-
even the Disabled Veterans of America, if there's a group that may be able to,
Right.
because their vans are nice, actually.
Yes,
They're very
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
And they'll do door-to-door service for
Right,
that, so you
that's
don't
what
even have
happened,
to
right.
get to the bus stop. So maybe we could pursue that a little
Okay,
bit more,
okay,
especially if there's, because I know that because I had asked about, you know, I said we had so many veterans here, how would we go
Right,
about getting
right,
a van for the area here?
Right.
So it may be able to be something where if we do have a particular day that we know, you know, the third
Right,
Thursday of
right,
every month,
right,
that, you know, we'll try and have our vets schedule their appointments on those days, maybe we could, you know,
We could pick up some of them, yeah, that seems to be the thing, and.
or at least as a start.
It is a start, and, you know, we gotta keep starting and getting it talked about. So, once we did the card, it opened up a lot of avenues for us. We were then, our focus was, do we have homeless veterans in this town? We do. It's shameful, we shouldn't have any in America, but we do. So we connected with Suffolk County United Veterans. We have 2 houses now in Riverhead. One is on 911 Ostrander, and that is run by Beacon House. That takes homeless veterans directly from Northport that are recommended for housing and places them in these transitional homes where they're taught how to get a job, this and that. Suffolk County United Veterans is on Maple Avenue. That house is just 3. We provide once a year at the holiday time, it's called Operation Reindeer. And we provide sweats, like health things, like cleaning supplies, whatever. That happens every single year. Rotary, through Kim, now helps Beacon House. So what we've tried to do with the committee.
There wasn't, I'm not gonna take any credit for it.
Okay.
There was a veterans committee and Rotary before I became a
Oh,
member.
okay,
That was-
okay. But what we're trying to do is to get things in place where, no matter who is on this committee, it will always serve, as a future for them. And then what we discovered was we really have nothing in place at the school, to honor those graduates who have gone into the service. We have spoken to, we're working on it now, we've spoken to the superintendent.
Did you see Eastports too? They had the beautiful.
Yes,
Mattituck
yes.
Mattituck just did one too, yeah.
Well, what's gonna happen is, we've already spoken to the school, we've chosen a wall,
Nice.
which is right outside the ROTC office. The names of all of the Riverhead graduates that went into the military will be put on here.
Very nice.
Kim and I will raise the funding for the name tags for whatever cost there is, separately. And,
The high school, the shop, their shop department is going to make the flag, right?
Yeah, we've had several meetings, so
Yes.
we've already called around and gotten
Yes.
donated materials. We've had several meetings with the
Yeah,
high school
yeah.
staff.
and again,
And the
what will
principal.
happen is, there will be no cost to the town, again, there's no budget, you have to do everything volunteer. Once that flag is up on that wall, graduates from the ROTC class will be responsible to put the names each year of graduating seniors. So it's a legacy that we can leave within that school. It will be dedicated to Dyshorn Briggs, and also have Garfield Langhorne, so noted there. The VFW is working with us to get the seals. We'll have the military emblems on top. We were hoping for this Veterans Day, that's our goal. So that's, you don't think, she doesn't
You'll
think
be
so.
able to do.
You know what, I know, Kim's like, it's not gonna happen,
It's hard actually to
it's
go
gonna
back in
happen.
the records and find everybody, it's
Here's what the
sometimes
difficulty is,
it's difficult.
We as a committee come across the rights to privacy in a lot of avenues. The school's not gonna let us into their records. What's gonna happen is, I've already started a hand list of just people I know, just passing the word.
How far are you going back?
That's what the school is
Right.
looking into,
Right.
the principal's
We
looking out
should go
for-
back to Pulaski.
Guess I'll add my brother.
Yeah, okay, good. If you know anybody, start a list for me. Jim Wootner has already started a list.
And I think that, remember in Riverhead, there's a couple Facebook sites out
Right.
there that you might wanna contact and
Right.
whoever's ever doing
Right.
those, that might be able to
Mhm,
provide you
mhm.
with some information.
Yeah.
But if somebody does have information, where would you like them to
Uh,
forward that to?
They can, email it to me,
Okay.
or
She's
Kim.
already accumulated some biographies, so
Yeah, so that it's, I'm off to a good start. Now, we're gonna run ads in the paper.
So we'll put your email contact on our
Yes.
website also,
is
and
on the
our
website.
Facebook page.
It's on the website,
for
yeah,
it?
okay, yeah, okay,
If you wanna write up a little blurb, maybe
Yeah.
what you want.
Okay, and then, this is taking up a little bit of our time now, but, then, we've never done a tribute to female veterans in this town. And every March is Women's History Month. We have to do that. So, I've started compiling a list, I'm up to 22 female veterans residing in this town. And, in March, we'd like to do something to honor them. whether it be a breakfast, you know, again, you know, we'll get sponsors, you know, when we had that dinner,
That was very well attended,
It
it was at
was.
Polish
300
Hall,
people.
there was 300 people
When
there.
was that?
I think it was a year before the committee started,
2013,
2013.
so we started in
Okay.
2014,
Yeah,
and
So
there
you're
were.
ready for a 5-year anniversary.
I am,
She
I
had
am,
a
I
general,
am,
she
I
had a
am.
retired general come in
Yeah.
and speak, and it was,
Yeah, and a wounded veteran from
they
my,
did a great
from
job
my
with the
life, yeah.
dinners, and it
Yeah.
was fabulous.
There was no cost to anybody other than sponsoring the veteran. And, we had 60-something, veterans in this town that had served in the Persian Gulf. And, I wanted it set up like a state dinner, with the big tall candles, the big flower pieces.
Everybody came in dressed up.
Everybody came dressed in
It was very
uniform,
nice.
and what the merchants in this town did, they filled little gift bags with discounts on oil burner service, free haircuts,
Splish Splash, right, I remember there was Splish Splash tickets.
massages, so each veteran received almost $600 worth of gifts from this town. When the Vietnam veterans were there also, they got to see what this town was capable of, which is what prompted us to do our next mission, which was getting the recreational trail named after Vietnam veterans. There's still a wound there, which we're not gonna heal. That wound is forever with Vietnam veterans. But we're making that wound less painful in this town. We've also, partnered with the Dwyer Project, which is a counseling service for victims of PTSD. We contact them, they go into the homes, and they help these veterans that are going through tough times. The younger veterans that are coming out of the service today seem to have it all together. The services themselves, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, have now taken on the role, the last year that that person's in service, they actually have to attend this reentry type service. The Air Force is the winner in this, they're like on it. So everybody's waking up to this, you can't just send this veteran home after he's done 5 tours and expect him to just, okay, I'm here, what do I do?
Then society, yeah.
We have found a lot of, returning veterans some employment. We also have partnered with Suffolk Community College, there's a big veterans organization over there. Their way of giving back to their country and their veterans, they build bikes for disabled veterans, that they compete in. Part of the dream when Calverton, Veterans Park was done, and the trail, there's a lot of competitions that go throughout the country for, quadriplegic veterans. Veterans Memorial Park and that recreation trail are a perfect setting to do some of these games, like more or less like an Olympic game for these veterans. There's a lot of grants involved in that. So that's still in the back of my head, to get that like as a future thing. And, we're also doing, the Veterans Wall of Honor. It used to be called the Dog Tag Project. Now, what this is a library has this, Port Jefferson Library. And they have a little bit of information about the veteran, and it's put in the shape of a dog tag on a screen with a picture. Now, we had hoped that the town could run a scrolling, screen.
That's the one you're looking at
At the
is-
library you talking about, or?
No,
Where- what's your
when I was
thought?
a trustee at the library, I tried to get them to, they just don't have the time and the
We don't
money
have- Yeah,
I've
to-
spoken to the,
to set up.
to the town IT department, to Lori Pipchinsky, and she said that she could set up the website very easily and put the names, and then you click on the names, and
So
then the
this is
dog tag comes
Port
up with a picture.
Jefferson Library, this is how they set up their wall of honor. So when you go onto their wall of honor, all you have to do is click on one of those dog tags, and the next page is what comes up.
Okay.
Is it a Wall of Honor or the dog tag project?
So really,
I'm
all
sorry,
the
well,
town would be
poor
doing
Jeff
is
calls
create-
it
is
Wall of
allowing the
Honor,
street-
so,
Okay.
but
the
dog
street
tag
to be
project is what we
somewhere,
call
you
it.
know, the
Okay.
lobby, whatever,
In town hall here?
right.
Yeah, I don't think that should be
Okay, okay.
should be a problem, it's done on a, is a particular website you do it from, that you create this on, it's just a
Yes,
yeah,
that's
so
correct,
that,
that's
it's just a
correct.
matter of displaying
That's
it on a
correct, that's
TV
correct.
screen?
And it's a matter of IT getting caught up with all the projects that
Right,
they're currently
right,
working on,
right,
so.
Right, so,
but-
so this is still, you know, in the.
But we're
process
gathering
of-
information is what we're
Right,
doing.
right.
From the veterans that wanna
Right.
be in the dog tag project where they can give the information, give the picture
Correct.
or loved one
Correct.
and then.
It's hard for them to come forward with their stories. John Dunleavy had sent a letter out asking them, and we got a couple. I think a lot of it's gonna be, I know Georgette Case, the town historian, she has a lot of, she's,
The
books and
newspaper
books
ads,
of
books.
newspaper articles from people and kids who went into the service over the years. I think it's gonna involve a little bit of that.
It would be a great Eagle Scout project.
It is a great
That's a
Eagle
good
Scout
idea.
project. You know, we have a lot of history with this in the town, and, I think Georgette Case has done a fabulous job.
There's
but
no
w-
problem to display here, whatever,
Okay,
whenever
okay,
you get
okay,
together
okay.
what you have to
Yep,
get
yep,
together,
yep.
absolutely not a problem.
I'd love to have that.
Yeah, and I think
You've
that,
always been very supportive of our veterans, as you
What's
know.
the Girl Scout equivalent, Gold Star?
yeah, that'll be finally the bridge, the finished bridge that connects it, so everything else will be in place. Except there's one thing, I haven't even mentioned this to you. Okay. There's probably veterans at some of the, 55 and older parks, like Glenwood, you know, a couple of the smaller ones, who aren't saying that they need like yard service, like their leaves raid, stuff like that.
Most of those parks, just so you know,
Okay.
it comes with, that's their
Okay, it's part of
HOA
the service.
fees,
Okay,
covers
okay.
covers all
Okay,
that. Doesn't mean there's not
Okay.
issues inside the
Yeah.
house that need to be
Okay,
attended
okay.
to, but the
Yeah.
outside portions
Okay.
come with the HOA fees.
That's the only thing I'd like to see happen, you know, that make sure that the veterans that are living alone are taken care of. The VA just passed, the home care for veterans, correct, Kim?
Yes, it was signed into law a couple weeks ago by President Trump.
So veterans will be able to get home care, instead of,
Be able to stay at home for their
Be
home
able
care
to
and have
stay
it
at home,
covered,
right.
and it could be, is that the
Right.
one where it could even be a relative?
correct,
Yes.
And
And
do that for their job,
correct.
okay.
Yes.
So we've come a long way, we feel we've done, you know, a great job so far with the committee. Can we do more? Yeah, we can always do more.
With this home care one, if you guys, are you well versed on that? Do you, I mean, town hall is certainly open to you here, if
Right.
you wanna do an informational session on that, we can reach out to veterans and then explain it, because I know it is a bit
Sure,
confusing,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
really is a big change in being able to
mhm.
have people remain at home, especially if you have a relative that lives, close by, it's,
right.
it's.
We'd love to set up, something, you know, with
There's
more
already
information.
somebody's offered to help with that, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we could put something up on Channel 22 too, because
Yeah,
they seem to be a lot of veterans in town that tell me that they watch
right.
Channel 22 often.
Oh,
Yeah, we've established connections that, we could only have dreamed of 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, when this committee
Well,
started.
you're doing a lot of work,
Thank you.
you're out there.
You know, it's, you know, I follow a thing, boots on the ground, you know, and, sometimes it's a little unconventional, but the servicemen understand how we operate. They're like, you go, you get the idea, you go, and that's what they love about us. We've received calls concerning, markings on the stones in Calverton, like where the weather has darkened. So we've been in contact, we have a good relationship with Calverton Cemetery Association, and who would take care of that? Well, it's up to the individual family whose stone that is. We've been contacted, what do I do with an old flag? I don't wanna just throw it out. Our VFW and American Legion in this town, is trying to recruit newer, younger members, okay, as they do in every town. So we've tried to help them also, you know, we're trying to get more membership. But all in all, in this town, if you're lucky enough to be a veteran and live in this town, you're gonna be taken care of. And I'm very proud of that, I'm very, very proud of that, thanks to all of you. You've never turned us down, you know, with ideas and stuff, and,
The thanks go back at you, because
Yeah.
you're the foot on the ground, and the work you've
Absolutely.
done for the veterans in this
Thank you,
community
thank
is
you, thank you.
unbelievable,
I
and
have
really
heard-
appreciate what
thank
you
you.
and Kim are doing.
I have heard so many stories from veterans, they've told me verbally they can't put it in writing. And I said, that's okay, that's okay.
But just to know there's somebody out there who cares.
Yeah, they,
They call her at the library.
oh yeah, it's like,
She
yeah.
gets phone calls.
The library did create a, veterans outreach card a few years ago. We had, servicemen from the, 106 who came in. There's one guy in particular, came in, and when he came in, he would read a few pages of a book and asked us to hold the book, and I was like, all right. So, a few days in a row, he would, I'm like, okay, hey, why aren't you taking the book out? I don't have a card, and I said, oh, you didn't get a card from West Hampton? No, they said, you know, I live there. I said, oh my God. I said, okay, we're gonna do an outreach card. So as it turned out, he missed his father's dying, because he was deployed. His mother was now dying in New Jersey, and he couldn't get back there. His brother was there. So I said, well, let's do it this way. Let's set you up with a private computer, and put Skype on there, and you get your brother to bring his laptop, put Skype on there, and you can actually talk to your mom.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So we established a relationship, and then I said, and let's create a veterans outreach card for you.
Yeah.
If you wanna take out a book while you're over there, you know, take it out, please. If you wanna download something, use this card to download, so.
Yeah, and you guys do that for the homeless,
Yeah, we do that for the
population
homeless too, and,
Mhm.
homeless veterans, we've had a very good relationship at Maureen's Haven. They usually give me a phone call when they have homeless veterans. They try everything possible to get these individuals homes. We just had a guy, who served honorably 4 years at the 106. He could not receive veteran services because he was not deployed, okay? So that's the way the government works. So I was not happy with that, so I called up Veterans Affairs, and I said, well, this is New York State. He could have been deployed to a disaster within New York State, that's my personal opinion. So, I'm not buying this, somebody better do something. So they sent out representatives, and it turned out he was on social services, he needed it for housing. We can't help him because he's already receiving social services. So I looked at the veteran, I said, cancel your social services, they're gonna give you 100%. And that's what happened. So see, it's one government piece working against the other.
Right.
But now, he is placed into housing with one other veteran, and he was provided with a car, donated by a collision place. So he has transportation, he has housing, and now he qualifies under EEOC for food, discounts on utilities, so it's a little bit of wall breaking, but it can be done. And, it shouldn't happen in America, there shouldn't be homeless veterans. Sorry, this is just horrible. And, so anyway, that's about it.
Well, we thank you for everything you do. You have quite a list, quite an agenda,
No,
you know, and it's terrific. Anything that we can do
Yes, thank you.
to help out, I will contact again for the disabled,
Yeah, I'd like to see better
America.
transportation.
I'll follow up on that, because I've called them a few times just to find out about that, but I'll find out about
Yeah, if we could
that.
get a little better commitment that, see, I want Riverhead to like be a star here, and, pick everybody up in Riverhead, and, you know, I'd like to see Hampton
Seems
County do this
workable.
honor ride.
Yep,
This is
yep.
like, I'm kinda hoping, I keep trying,
I like
and,
the jitney might do it, and let me just say, I'm in awe of all the stuff you guys are doing.
oh, thank you very much,
It's
thank you very much.
amazing,
Yeah,
and and hopefully any of vets who are watching that
Yeah.
aren't receiving these services will reach out to you, and
when,
thanks to all the vets that
you're
are
welcome.
watching.
When we started the, merchant card, it was literally footwork, you know,
And
going-
she did it
Yeah.
almost all by
Yeah.
herself.
but
getting the
you kept me
merchants to-
sane.
That matters.
You always need somebody, you need a
And it
wingman.
was not easy saying no to me.
Yeah.
I had so many veterans coming in saying, Liz, I'm gonna shake your hand, I was in the Marine Corps, what can I do to help? So many veterans came in and say, what can can I walk with you? I'm like, no, sir, you've walked the walk for me already. This needs to be done by AmeriConnect, this needs to be done by this town. Just an FYI, I was contacted by, DC Veterans Affairs. And they said, I understand you have a veterans discount card. We do. How did you do that? I said, well, I'll lay it all out for you, how I did that. And, they couldn't believe it. They said, like, you mean people just, I said, yep, the card was printed, paid for by an anonymous donor, designed by an Iraqi female, war veteran, and,
Certificates of appreciation were made for all of them, that
went
they
to the, yeah.
pretty much all
So,
came in and retrieved too.
So I have been contacted by the town of Brookhaven, the town of, Islip, I
Islip,
believe, and
yeah.
one more town, and I laid it all out for them, so, but,
You're a
and I said,
trailblazer.
but Riverhead gets the cred.
Yeah.
You know,
We did it
'cause
first.
Riverhead gets a bad rap in my, you know, Riverhead gets a bad rap, and,
That's changing.
yeah, it's not that way really, so anyway, so let's hope, you know, maybe every town in Long Island will have this, I hope so,
That'd be nice.
I hope so.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you
Thank you
Um,
guys for having
if you
us.
wanna put a
Thank you.
flag drop off here, you can too,
Oh, okay, that's a good idea,
because I
to do
know,
the flag.
yeah, we could do the flag drop off here, this way,
Okay.
people, if they have old flags that need to get,
Okay,
The
oh,
Legion
that's,
has a flag drop too.
the Legion does too, yeah, but they only open after 3, so this is a good idea.
yeah, this way, people coming in
have
and
the
out,
drop.
we can
Oh,
drop, we'll
thank you,
drop off
that's a
here.
good idea,
Alrighty?
alright, well,
Thank
thank you for your
you.
time.
Thank you very, very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Dawn?
She is so
Can't believe how many things they do.
I know,
That was amazing.
it's freezing in here tonight.
It's chilly.
Gotta start wearing gloves.
Maybe for you too.
We're just waiting for Dawn. While we're waiting for Dawn, just a couple of announcements that we have a Live on 25 tonight at, from 5 PM to 9 PM, so hopefully everybody will come down and join us at that. And then also this Friday, our concert series, from Riverhead Townscape continues, and it will be at Polonaise Park on July 13th, which will be Friday, starting at 7 PM, and that will be Southbound. And it's a country band with a tribute to America.
Last Thursday's, initial Alive on 25 that the bid put on with the fireworks show was spectacular. Really a heartfelt thanks go out to Diane Tucci and Steve Sugar and all the volunteers that worked it to make it as successful as it was. The weather cooperated. The show, the fireworks show
Had
was
4 finales.
incredible. I know, it was like, wow,
Just kept
okay, I
going.
think this is it, and then
Yeah.
it kept going, and really, I've heard nothing but accolades from people all over town about it, so great job, bid, and
They did
everybody
fantastic, I
involved.
mean, and it was wonderful to
Yeah.
see so many people come out, I mean, the streets were packed, you had to like maneuver your way
Yes.
through
Yes.
everything, which was really nice.
It was huge. I watched the fireworks from the East End Arts grounds, and they had kind of cool music going in the background. It was wonderful.
Is Diane? What was that, you wanna do fire marshal? Okay, we'll have you guys come up first then.
What'd you say?
Couple of the embers coming over.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. I sent over an updated memo this morning, I'm not sure if anyone wants it, or,
Yeah, just maybe just pass out
yeah,
copies.
sure, that's.
Thank you.
So this, worked on this 4 years ago, and then it kinda didn't go anywhere. But we were looking at, ways to increase revenue. Fire marshal for, actually years have advocated to do something about their fees, cause most projects, they only take in $100 or $150 to start commercial projects, and then the, installation fees are kinda short.
But we did raise the fees a few years ago based on your recommendations.
We raised, a few of them a little bit, but I mean, they're still low, and there's also inspections that we do, which is.
I thought they were low when we raised them last time, but we went based on your recommendations.
So this was two things I identified that, well, one thing we weren't getting covered at all. New York State requires that all commercial establishments get inspected by a CEO, typically the fire marshal does it at least once every 3 years. These are known as triennial inspections. It's meant to, ensure that the paths of egress are not blocked, that the alarm systems, sprinkler systems are still working. Knox box keys or those lockbox keys that, ensure that when the fire service does come out in the middle of the night, they don't have to break down doors and windows, they can get to the keys. A lot of times the contacts are lost or keys are changed. It's a way for the fire marshals to ensure that every person in Riverhead who's, going to a commercial establishment, can feel that the space has been looked at. We didn't really have it in our fee schedule or in one of our, in chapter 239, which covers all fire marshal, all fire prevention fees and permits. And I thought it was a big spot where we were lacking. Other towns use the triennial fees to actually hire part-time fire inspectors to help with the loads and things like that. So that was the main thrust of this. Part of this as well, it's twofold. It was the public assemblies. Public assemblies are required by fire code and the New York State law to be inspected once a year. This is restaurants, but it's also churches and museums and any hotel.
I think it just that effect that it's fresh in everybody's mind, they're aware of it, it's, for health, safety and welfare, I mean, I think it's so important that people are aware and they, they see you coming in, they know it's coming up and.
Carbon monoxide detection was not something that was in the code 3 years ago. They've since passed laws and codes to add that. Craig and all the fire marshals have carbon detection. So sometimes you go in a space that you haven't been in a few years because there hasn't been a call out or there hasn't been an emergency, and then the monitor goes off and you can find something that could save people's lives. So.
And there was a problem with staffing too, in order to get out and do the triannual and annual inspections, because, that's a big problem. I mean, there was a backlog, and I'm sure there still is, of thousands of businesses that have not been visited in, many years.
And when they do go to the businesses and they're performing these inspections and services that are required by law, they're not getting compensated.
They're not compliant. Well, then the businesses aren't compliant, which requires a re-inspection.
Correct, yeah, a lot of times believe it or not, they don't pass the first time, so there's follow-up, so we
I
can.
think it's important too, because the new businesses that are going up, they're required to put a label outside the door as to what type of structure the building was built with, whether it was a truss structure or whether it was a
We have
frame.
the lightweight truss they're required for the fire service because they fail faster in a fire, yes.
And I think that with these triannual and annual inspections, we could probably bring these older businesses up to date to make sure that the labeling is on the doors as well.
That's one of the things that we look for, any of the businesses that we go in, the triennials. Plus, we find places that have made changes in those 3 years, or actually some places it's been a lot longer than that. And we go in and it's like, well, now there are walls here and this has been changed.
Yeah.
None of it's been done with any permits when we go back and we check with the building department, and a lot of it isn't to code. They've done wiring and things like that, which are all, fire and safety hazards.
Sure.
So.
It puts our volunteers at risk
Yep,
when
as
they
well
go
as
in to
the
fight a
public
fire.
and the people that
Yeah.
work there.
Yep.
I think this is very good, I'm happy that this is
Yes.
coming forward, we need to be able to inspect the buildings on a timely manner and be able to provide this service, and I think this is a way to get there.
On a side note, with like the chapter 255s that come
Yes.
in 30 seconds before they're about to happen, and, you're forced to change everything and go out and do a tent inspection or whatever, we do charge extra for, if they're beyond the time period, correct?
No, the chapter 255 is the $200 fee.
Right.
And when
But
they
if
come in
it's
last minute, sometimes, there's not the same thing, but one of the big issues we have right now is tents. On Monday or 2 weeks from now, the weather looks beautiful for that weekend.
Right.
But then along comes Wednesday and now they're forecasting rain. So Thursday and Friday, sometimes the end of the day, Friday, we'll get companies come in for a tent going up for that weekend. So now somebody has to go out on overtime to inspect that tent. And most of the companies are good, they know what we're looking for. Sometimes, though, there are companies that don't, and we go back and we say, this is no good, get a hold of the tent company, they've gotta come out here and correct this, because I'm not signing off on it.
Right.
And then, again, you're going back out a second time on,
Mm-hmm.
or the tents aren't set up when they say they're gonna be set up, and.
But we certainly should be recouping more from the original
They-
$200
Craig does have something
fee.
drafted on this.
Yeah.
We just haven't,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not part of this.
I think that's a good idea, I mean, why, cause we're eating the cost right now,
It
correct?
seems to happen too regularly.
Speaking with Brookhaven, I didn't plan on getting into this today, but speaking with Brookhaven, they require that the tent permit be in 2 weeks ahead of time, I believe. And the tent has to be set up for inspection during normal business hours, so that they're not inspected on,
Night or
overtime.
weekends, yeah, sure.
Correct, and we don't currently require anything like that. So the town
Brookhaven
can
does
go-
do
that's-
inspections on overtime, you just have to pay the additional
Well, I was gonna
cost.
say, if it comes in, if the inspection is after hours, or if it's later than 2 weeks, they charge an additional fee, which I think is $500.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
And
to
we're not
cover
charging,
costs.
and we're not
No.
currently charging anything
No,
extra.
currently it's just whatever the rate is for the size
The
of the
fire
tent.
marshals do try, if that happens, I mean, it's a pain for them, but because we have a standby person Saturday and Sunday, they get 2 hours. A lot of times, whoever's covering does try to fit in those tent inspections within the 2 hours, so they're cognizant of not accruing more overtime, but I think it does make sense if there was some sort of,
Absolutely.
last
Yeah, the
minute
onus doesn't need to be on the town
Right.
to do
surcharge
that,
or
so,
something like
so draft something up.
I mean, we do try and go out on Thursdays and Fridays to do as many of those inspections as we can, but it's a problematic, especially
Well, and it
this
seems
time
like
of year.
you see more and more tents being used.
Yes.
I would think that's increasing.
And we have some issues in some places around, which we're dealing with the town attorney's office. They're using tents as opposed to having what they're
Site
doing.
plan,
to
their
do
site
site
This
plan.
resolution
Right.
is in the packet, so I hope it's in your, if there's any questions.
Okay,
Good.
yep,
Thank
it
you
is
for
in there.
doing this.
All right,
So-
thank you very much.
So what, you're just raising the fees to, or charging a fee to cover review, posting, and inspection of public assemblies.
So public assemblies are required, and it's in our code, but
Yeah.
it's been free. And we're looking at, fire marshals do over 100 a year, and those are rather involved, because you're looking at spaces where 100 more people are gonna be gathered in. We wanna make sure that their alarm and required sprinkler are functioning. The amount of work that goes into the public assembly to have it for free just doesn't
Makes sense.
it doesn't cut it. The other part is the triennial is, there was already in the code an operating permit for $50 for required but not specifically spelled out, so it's required by state law, so I just tied the triennial to that, so a modest $50 a year to cover the 2,000 plus businesses. It helps bring the expenses from the fire marshal's office more in parity with the
So
revenue.
who's doing the invoicing and doing the receivables? The accounting would do that, or fire marshal?
Which is gonna be, instead of operating permits for just what is the pot work or the motor vehicle repair or the hazardous store, now there's gonna be an operating permit for every commercial business, so we can track that it's getting inspected.
And you have the IPS system where you can do this.
Yeah.
So there'll be a tickler file, obviously, and then whoever pays, it gets pulled out, and whoever's left is who you're gonna go after, is
Yeah,
that,
I
are you
think
gonna
Laura
set it
can
up?
do a report which will generate who hasn't paid, and she can send out notices of violation to them, and then if they haven't, then, we'll
So,
issue tickets.
do you think that it would be wise to give them a certain time to pay this $50, and if they don't, then it doubles?
Certainly do that. I mean, if it's not paid by a certain date, I mean, one
Within
of the
30
problems we
days,
have.
then you double the fee.
I mean,
You
one
have
of the
to
problems-
put somebody out there.
Yeah,
That's the only thing in the beginning,
What?
for the time frame. For the time frame,
Well, no, cause the IPS system does it, so if it hasn't been receipted and paid within 30 days, then it'll automatically generate another letter, so.
I believe so, yes.
Well, yeah, we can look at, with this tent request, we can look at just covering all their fee, if
But
they're
I think
not,
that there has to be penalties involved, if we're asking them to pay and then they're not paying, then it's gonna double, so they know that they should just pay it, because, they know we don't have the staffing to go after them, we could keep sending letters all day long,
or
and
if
then-
someone's behind on an operational permit, you can tell them about the
Yeah.
process.
If they don't, file for their permits on time, we generally send them a notice of violation telling them that they need to do it, and then if they still haven't, we'll send them a court appearance ticket for not renewing their permit. And then when they renew it, it's generally double the fees on things, and, then we'll go out and do the inspection, so sort of a double whammy. One of the problems we have with the assembly right now is that there is no fee. So people are like, well, it's a free permit, I don't really need to file for it, so we're constantly chasing after people to get the paperwork in so we can do the proper inspections.
A couple of years ago, I'm
Brad,
sorry.
if you're gonna amend with that, do you wanna also amend with the tent? Going out the last minute for the tents?
I thought,
The next work session.
yeah, I thought
Yeah,
maybe I
let's
would.
let's
Okay.
keep them separate until we'll get one through, cause that's a separate resolution, the tent,
Yeah,
Right.
the
Okay.
tent schedule.
but I think there's something globally I can put in this chapter
Right.
for fire prevention where if any, cause it's not the only place where fees are, if there's any sort of fees that are
Not paid on.
Or not paid on time, I wanna review it first and see if that doesn't already exist, and if not, I can bring that with with something with the tents.
You may be able to just do a doubling universally, correct?
So a couple of years ago, Craig, you gave us a list of the backlog on inspections and things of that nature. If you could just update that, I'm sure the entire board would like to see that so that we can, analyze that.
Okay, so you wanna know where, I don't have that information with me at the
No,
moment,
I
but
mean,
maybe-
within the next couple of weeks, if you can put it
I'll talk to
together, just so
Laura
that
and
we
see.
know.
Yeah.
Cause I know that you had gone in, to several businesses and actually tried to do inspections and you were refused entry and things of that nature, so that's,
We still have that, and we have a few things that have been passed on to the town attorney's office on areas where we've been denied entry or thrown off the property.
yeah, so I think that there should be something in our code too, that when you go out to do an inspection, if you're denied entry, that it automatically issues a notice of violation with an automatic penalty for just denying the fire marshal to come in, because under a fire marshal permit for these businesses to exist, you should be able to enter the premises at any time and do an inspection.
You do have to announce I mean, you still have to announce yourself and be granted permission, of course, if your fire marshal not granted permission, then that's grounds to immediately shut down the establishment, I don't think
Right.
I don't think you,
Generally, we try not to do that.
Put a notice of violation, I mean, I know we had a restaurant that wouldn't let you made 3 attempts to inspect the hood vent and then the building went on fire.
And it had a fire.
So, it's a matter of public safety,
Yeah.
and I think it's very important, and if you're denied entrance when you are trying to schedule an inspection, especially on numerous occasions, there's gotta be something that can be done about that.
That's when it gets turned over to the attorney.
Well, we
Correct.
do that, another place we ended up doing an administrative warrant to gain entry. That place has since remained closed, since then, we still have him in court, he doesn't have the money to do what needs to get done, but it was, a place of assembly. And, there were numerous issues, I think we wrote 10 or 12 tickets on that. So it's sort of an extreme thing, but, it's also, it sucks up or
Time.
uses a lot of time and personnel power, just doing all the paperwork and so forth. So we try not to go that route, but when we have to, we do.
Okay, yeah, so we'll work on this, we'll send something, in the
Okay.
future.
Very good.
Great.
Thanks so
Are
much.
you're not gonna try and change anything from the resolutions that are currently in here, or?
Rather not, if that's okay, just.
Okay, if you wanna just do a read over, if there's a line or two that needs to be changed on it, I think we're pretty much all in agreement.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
they're not responded to, if there's a penalty for not responding, if you wanna include that, we can accept that up
Okay.
until, for the next couple days.
I'm thinking there's something in the whole fire prevention,
Okay.
but I wanna double check.
Yep,
Right.
do double check, otherwise it'll stand as is until we can change it.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And now we're gonna do site plan fees for additional floors.
Beat up Dawn, I'm
Yes, I see that. And I see there's a smile on your face, so you don't have to sit and wait.
No, I'll get this done and over with, this is, pretty simple. Right now, we charge $500 plus 10 cents a square foot for altered area for our site plan fee, and that's typical. And we have a 10-acre site, we typically get a very large application fee because it's a 10-acre site. The problem is when you have your downtown areas, you have small lots, and you can build out lot line to lot line. We get a very small application fee, because it's based upon square foot of altered area, and the lot size is, you can have a 3-story, 4-story, 5-story building.
Right.
This amount of time that takes us to review that is just as much as it is for our 10-acre site. And so what we're proposing is that we base it upon square foot of altered area times the number of stories that you're proposing. Just to give you an example of that, David Gallo's project, Riverview Lofts, 5-story building, he paid $4,200 in application fee last year, and based upon the code amendment, he would be paying over $18,000.
Yeah, and most 10-acre sites are paying anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 for
Yeah.
site plan application fees.
So we just want the downtown and the multi-story buildings to pay their fair share, that's all.
Thank you.
I'm
That's
glad
it.
you did this, and clearly it's overdue.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's it.
all right,
Very good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
All right, we'll try one more time.
Jeff set the record,
Yeah,
speed.
So, the site plan fees for additional floors, that's only gonna be in the DC one, DC
no,
three?
no, everywhere. It's an amendment for the application.
Well, I don't think that's right, because if you have a 10-acre site, you're already paying 25,000, and if you have to multiply that by 2 or 3 times, you're talking about $100,000 for.
Well, you're still reviewing the amount of square footage for stories. Do you want Jeff to come back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, did they get the computer to work or not?
They were back there. I think they
Jeff,
got it going.
Jeff may have to come back one more time.
Okay, not a big deal, it's easier, I printed everything out just so everybody can.
this is actually really bad. My son Jake too, I don't know. I have somebody going into the house today and changing all the air filters.
I was hoping we could put it up because, but it's not too bad actually, either way.
Let me just see, cause I think he just walked out the door, there's just one more question on his resolution.
Okay.
Just one before you.
Cause I agree with it on smaller sites where you're going with 4 or 5 stories, but I think once you get over, you know, he's gotta figure out what the average permit fee is. We can't make it so that.
You still have to review all the square footage, it's based on square footage.
No,
So
it really
it's-
is not. I've been in the building industry for 25 years and it's not that difficult. He's just trying to recoup the fees that it takes to, so whether you're building a 5-story building on 10 acres or you're building a 5-story building on a quarter acre, it's the same review. You shouldn't bang the 10-acre sites twice or 3 times or 4 times, in my opinion. Okay, so,
Just wait,
Did
just
you
wait till
think you
get
could get away that
Yes.
fast?
All right, there's an additional question.
Sure.
So, the reason for doing this was on smaller lots where, you know, there's not there's no 10-acre site where
Right.
you're paying 10 cents for every inch of that 10 acres.
Right.
So, we are not planning on doing this throughout the whole town, even on the 10-acre sites, charging the, double or triple or quadruple for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors at EPCAL or at, you know, an industrial site where it's 10 acres or 5 acres. It's just for smaller parcels?
It's all parcels, but there's a cap, it's $30,000.
Okay.
So even the 10-acre sites, they would be capped at $30,000.
Got it.
And if they got 2 stories, it'd still be $30,000.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, walk slowly in case we call you back.
Oh, and Jeff?
I think you're good.
So
Thank you.
that's in the
Jeff.
code that it's capped at 30,000?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you do the work without, site plan approval.
That is correct,
Yes,
and it's double.
yes. Okay.
So, you have a little packet in front of you, the map that you're looking at, the significant, part of this map are the little, lime green dots. Those dots are, they correlate to the printed pictures of the signs which are below. So we, you know, we've been progressing through this project, it's complicated because each sign has its own content, text, and then even when we designed the signs and then went and looked at them, we had to adjust a little bit. So this is, based on our last walkthrough, we have to do one more walkthrough to make sure that everything is the way we think it ought to be. There's a total of 26 signs that we were able to purchase within the budget, which the total was $118,284, which is, partly grant funded. And so I thought that was a lot of signage, which, you know, I didn't think we would be able to get nearly that many signs. So if you look, now, the reason I wanted it to be able to be on the screen is cause the print didn't show, like, couldn't get over here, so.
John, were we able to get the computer working? No. No, okay,
So it's okay, we could manage with what we have.
okay.
But, and we don't have to go over every single sign, but you get the gist of it. If you look, number 1 would be the sign that's all the way to the left here. We started sort of at the bottom of Griffin Avenue, and then we worked our way around, and you can see they're all kind of over the place. We went west, and then we went back east, and then we went along the riverfront. So, basically, the signs that you're looking at here are, you know, giving as much information as we can without, we didn't wanna be too specific about restaurants or shops, because we didn't think that would be fair to any particular person. We hit the bigger items, historic downtown, parking, and then parks, and, just give you like a good one. We did, if you look at sign number 6, which would be right sort of in front of Diggers there on the map, so it's like here. It's got railroad, so we're also consolidating some signs, cause when we went to the locations, oftentimes we would find that there were,
5 signs.
yeah, so we try to figure out how we're gonna, you know, really sort of reduce that visual clutter. And, one of the other important things was the posts are black, so they match our lamp posts, so that's another way to reduce that visual clutter. And then when we could attach the sign to the lamp post, we did that to avoid, you know, unnecessarily planting.
As a banner type sign.
Yeah, exactly, so,
And you will be a hero if you can get rid of the crosswalk signs.
I am going to work hard to do that, because they are just
Hideous. Yes.
horrifyingly ugly, and I think they're more distracting to the driver, the signage actually.
Then seeing the person crossing the street,
Yeah,
yes,
you know,
I agree with you.
So, this is great, it's mostly the downtown area I see,
Yes.
but I always wondered why we never had a sign like this when you're pulling out of Tanger onto 25 that says historic downtown Riverhead, restaurants, aquarium, and everything with arrows pointing that way, so that when you're waiting at that light to come out of Tanger on 25,
you know where to go, so there,
There is one on 58.
Tanger actually
I know.
has a
58
sign.
but
does
you
have
can't
it.
really see it, cause it's at an angle, you can only see it when you're pulling in, you can't see it when you're pulling out.
I think that was partly with the grant funding
Yeah,
at this
this
point.
funding source is for this is Suffolk County Downtown Revitalization Fund, so it would be for downtown. But we could use other sources to do those signs, and those are in the planning, process, because we agree that bookending, you know, the downtown all the way at East Main, at the end of East Main Street where it intersects with 25, and also like at Tanger and at the traffic circle to get
Yeah.
people going, and then.
Direct people, cause
if the
people don't even
signs-
know we have a historic downtown when they come to Tanger.
Exactly, so if we have these signs, which, you know, if we use that theme, that will also help get people looking, they'll be looking for that color, that theme, those logos, and all that other stuff. So this is part of, you know, creative placemaking, in addition to just information, getting people moving around quicker. So there's multiple goals and objectives in doing this. So, and basically, I gave you kind of what we're looking at. So we have some of the more significant ones are, this is 9. So 9, if you look at 9, it's all the way, it would be on the right side of 25, opposite the Historical Society.
That's me.
Second green dot to the
And it
left.
basically is a, you know, bookend sign, welcome to the historic district, this is where we are. And then, let's see, then there's a Chamber of Commerce sign that's on number 10, that's on the bridge, the Nugent Drive Bridge, the Court Street Bridge. That is in dilapidated condition, that's gonna be replaced with this one, which basically gives you direction into town, and another sort of a welcome to Riverhead type of a, you know, gateway sign. One of the other things that we wound up doing was, I just wanna find the one, it's on the first page, sign number 3. There is some confusion, and when we walked this, we had some other signs that we thought we would be advocating for, and we got to, when you look into the driveway to the Riverfront Park, so you're walking north on Peconic Avenue, you look to the right, there's that in and out to the
Yeah,
parking
it's
lot, and it's
confusing.
very confusing, so we are hoping that this, number 3 sign will be at the center, and it'll help people see which way, and then we hope to get some more striping on the ground, maybe Gio can help us with that.
Lighting also, I think
It
there's been a
needs- yeah.
request for a street light to be put in that area also to illuminate it better. It's a very difficult.
It's a bad little,
The
Yeah.
angles on it are
Right.
kind of,
They're
they're not as,
confusing.
yeah, they're not as conducive to an easy turn.
Right.
yeah, so when we walked up Peconic Avenue, you could see a bunch of different things that needed to be done. One was the lighting needs to be replaced, matching the downtown Main Street lighting. So we did apply for some funding for that through CDBG, and then, these gateway areas are kind of interesting, so when you look at that, you say, well, that should be an important feature for us, so we're gonna work on not only just doing these types of things, but working on maybe some plantings and other things that could accentuate and, you know, really kind of make those gateway areas appear more like gateway areas.
Let me just ask you, cause you mentioned Meconic Avenue, are you taking down some of the signs?
Yes.
Because there's this weird leaning over,
There's
I love
a-
New York sign on Meconic.
Yeah, well, that is one of
Is
the
that coming
state,
down?
state signs,
That'll,
maybe.
that'll come with the crosswalks. That's a crosswalk.
We're talking about a ninja,
Yeah.
a little ninja nighttime
We need to
project.
get rid of some of the ugly
Um,
signs.
the other thing is we do have public restrooms in downtown, did we put those on any signs?
Those are not on any of these signs, we didn't, you know, we ran out of money before we got to
So
some
maybe in
of
phase
the
two,
more,
that could be included.
And also, you'll note that some of the parking signs, which are sort of at the end of this, we left a lot of information off of those signs, cause when we have our parking plan completed, we're hoping that the hours, the type of parking would be, you know, more refined at that point, and we could, you know, really identify those on the
Okay.
signs, but every single parking lot has a sign, entrances and exits. We have, some more signage on Peconic Avenue, which is, these Milton Burns, Grangeville Park, we consolidated, we're gonna get rid of the white sign, which is all rust stained, that says, Milton Burns Park, that will be replaced with a nice, so all the signage when you're coming north will be as consistent as we can. We'll probably have to remove some signs, I don't know what kind of permission, that I Love New York sign, cause there's an aquarium
I know.
sign, a little aquarium sign, then there's a I Love New York aquarium
It's
sign.
like falling over too.
And those were not, you know, installed by us, obviously.
And I know you have a lot of Riverwalk here, can any of them be changed over to maybe shopping area?
So,
Or something, some sort of, you know, so people know that this is our retail restaurant shopping area, you know?
yeah, we can look at that for sure. You know, we called it River Walk because a lot of times I think we refer to it as riverfront, but really you want people to walk there, so
Yeah.
we kind of
I like Riverwalk.
changed the name of it,
Yeah.
It
No, I-
highlights
you know,
that we have the riverbank there, I don't.
yeah.
I like that, but I think if you're doing some of some of them should indicate
We
that
could
it's the shopping area.
You know, shopping district or
Yeah.
What
something.
shops do we really have right now to where you don't wanna mislead people and have them go, oh, shops, okay, let's go shopping on the riverfront, and then,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe you could fit them both on there.
That's where I'm saying that it's parking riverfront, so you could have maybe some parking shopping area, you know, something, or
Yeah.
it doesn't have to say shopping
It
area,
could
but.
say parking
so-
for Main Street shops or
Yes, Main Street
something.
shops, perfect.
We'll talk about that,
We have all our restaurants on there,
yeah.
on
and
Main
have
Street.
shops where you're gonna go
We
and get
have-
shoes or a dress or a suit.
Well, let's
or-
hope that
Well,
changes
the
soon.
restaurants are.
Yeah, and when it does, then we
restaurants.
can change the sign, but we don't wanna mislead
And then,
people to think.
Not really,
the
though.
other thing was,
really have
and if you
restaurants.
look at sign number 23, we do have like restaurants and hotels
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to identify any particular restaurant or
nor
hotel because
should
we
you.
don't want to, you know, it's government sign, we're
Right.
not gonna advertise for anybody in particular. But,
Yeah, people are
next-
usually looking to go eat, or go to the aquarium, or
yeah, and
get to the
those,
courts,
those
or-
things are covered, Historical Society's covered, the Railroad Museum is covered, most of those public institutions are addressed in here, and I think the next, once these are installed, I think we'll be able to really, cause we saw a lot of places where we thought we could put more, and we just ran out of money, but I think this is an amazingly
It's a great start.
good start.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And Dawn, where did you say the welcome to the historic district goes?
So that's at number 9, which is sort of like, so when you make the turn, so you're gonna come up the Court Street Bridge, and you're gonna see a nice new, where is it, welcome to number 10, is gonna be, you know, downtown Riverhead, Supreme Court, Riverhead Library, Aquarium, Riverwalk, Historic Downtown, so you'll catch that one, then when you get to the corner and you make the right turn, you're gonna see this, number 9, which is Welcome to the Historic District. So when you make that turn, you're gonna go, oh, okay, I'm here. And then one of the other important things was this P, the parking P, which, you know, we've used uniformly throughout the whole, so when you start looking, when you see the P, oh, that's the P, now I'm gonna look for the P. And then that will lead you to the parking areas,
Right.
and the signage should give you a good idea of the length of time that you can park there, what it's for, and all that other,
And then where does the thank you for visiting go?
that's gonna be on,
What number is that?
I think that's number 4, it's the back of, that's the, actually,
Okay.
number 3, it's the back of number 3, I think. So then when you are
But-
going south on Peconic Avenue, you will see that, thank you for visiting historic downtown Riverhead,
And, so 1 second.
now you're in
This
Southampton.
says historic downtown, but this just says the historic district.
Yeah, so, we went back and forth a lot about
I
the
know, curious about
content.
that.
Let me see if I can remember why we did that.
Well, the downtown, I mean, you go up a little all the way up to the railroad station, I don't know where this one's going.
So which one you're looking at? That,
I think
the
it's
historic
9.
district, that's the number
9.
9. Because we did, I know why, because if it says on top, downtown Riverhead, we didn't want a downtown on a single sign, so we were worried about duplicating the word downtown, since it says it on top, so we're like, well, it says downtown Riverhead, welcome to the historic district, cause now you're in downtown.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is it's on the
Yeah.
other one twice, but.
That's on the way out. We can, you know, we do have to do one more walkthrough on these, so we'll probably tweak them a little bit more, but we're getting close, and the mantra of the group that's been doing it is basically, let's put the signs up, do the best we can, getting the content right. If we need to change them, we can always do
Yeah.
that, because we can go on for a century about, you
No,
know,
I really
Right.
like them.
you know, the
I like them.
nuances of it, and that was kinda like, rip the Band-Aid off and move forward, so, we
I
did,
get that.
we did use that
So,
approach.
on the one that says downtown Riverhead, and it says Supreme Court, Riverhead Library, and then it says Aquarium, Riverwalk, Historic Downtown, it's the second.
Yeah,
Um,
that's gonna be on the Court Street Bridge.
So, should we say Historic Downtown on top, and then Aquarium and Riverwalk underneath? And what about the theater, the Suffolk Theater? We shouldn't, because that seems to be a big draw for people downtown that they
Yeah.
might have difficulty finding also.
So we did go back and forth about that, and because it is a private business, you know, we kinda were like, and, I mean, the aquarium is also, so we're kinda like, sort of trying to figure out what we can do without,
Well, private
Making everybody
business
else
and major attraction, I
Yeah.
think, are how
So
you
we
can
can-
I think you could just say
differentiate.
you could say theater,
Yeah.
instead of
well,
Suffolk Theater,
we
you
have
could say.
Vale Levitt
Yeah,
though,
theater.
too, I wonder, oh, no, we have it on this sign, we have it on number 23,
23,
on McDermott near,
Jamaican takeout.
yeah, so we have it there.
You have it where?
Suffolk Theater, it says
Put
Town
23.
Hall, Aquarium, Suffolk Theater, restaurants and hotels, both ways. That's at, that's at, the corner of like McDermott and Main. So that's there, we could add it, we could add theater.
Just so that when
I
you're
think
pulling
that's a
into
good idea.
downtown, so people don't get
Yeah.
turned around, you
Yeah,
know,
and they're
even
coming
if it
here
says
from
theater,
other
you know, it
places,
doesn't
yeah.
even need to say Suffolk Theater.
Okay, we can definitely work that in to,
The one when you enter town, so
Yeah.
that people know, which way do I go? Oh, I go
we
that way.
can just add it to like this one. Theater. Okay. And so that's basically, you know, where we are, we're very close, once we do this last walkthrough, tweak the text to the point where we feel it's like ready, then we would go to, order them from our annual construction contract bid.
How big are these?
These are like 2x3, these are bigger, they're like, I have to get the dimensions exactly, but these are quite big. These are sort of like the size of the banners, a little bit bigger maybe than,
And these,
I think they're like, I wanna say 4x6 or 4x4-ish.
So 6 in height and 4 across?
Yeah, I don't know, I have to ask Lisa exactly for the dimensions, cause but this is a uniform panel size for those.
And how high up do these sit?
That I'm not 100% sure of, it's gonna depend on where they are and what's, but they're gonna be as prominent as we can make them. These are not too high, these will be on the lower side, these will be taller.
And how far off the street will these, like if you
And
have
that depends on where we are, so we don't wanna put them in concrete, cause that costs a lot more money, so we have to like check through and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And we don't wanna have to ask for DOT permits from New York State on Main Street, so where we can put them in grass, we're putting them, where we're replacing an existing sign, we're putting them. We're trying to make sure that we reduce any other unnecessary signs in those areas, and, so that's really dependent upon exactly where it's gonna go.
okay.
These are nice, I'm excited to get some of the ugly ones out too.
And it's funny, cause when you walk
Especially 'cause
around.
this is a lot of signs.
The things that you pass by all the time, for instance, and I think I mentioned to you, the lighting on Conic Avenue is the old lanterns.
Right.
And one of them, or two of them are broken, like completely broken, and I thought, you just look, you don't look when you're driving, but this will help if we can clear up some of the clutter, get rid of those broken, I think we really can make that gateway.
It's becoming part of, the marketing and branding of the town, and I think,
Exactly,
people see this and they'll
Very
know that
cool.
this is Riverhead, they're in the historic district downtown. I think it's great.
Yeah,
This is
and
the result of the BOA study,
this is part of the BOA, and then we took the BOA and used it to leverage to get
the grant.
downtown grant,
Yep.
yeah, so the BOA was was important
We've
for.
leveraged the BOA for a lot of great projects.
And we're, about to do it again, actually, that's a beautiful segue.
I like
Oh,
the
you mean
sign,
the
I
huge
like the
waste of
colors,
money?
I like
Yeah,
the
the
colors.
huge waste of money, yeah.
We thought maybe, people pick this up and put it on t-shirts and bags, we love our town seal, obviously, but this is a different, purpose. So we changed it up a little, made it maritime, and we also talk about all roads lead to Riverhead, that's the IDA theme. And this was sort of like the Compass Rose, and we thought that was all kinda workable, and
Yeah, this is very nice.
that's how
I
it
like
came
it.
out,
Very
so
nice.
we're happy with
So
it.
the segues right into
So
your
the
other.
segue, so you have a resolution in your packet, I
Yeah.
just wanna briefly discuss it, for a grant application for CFA for transportation-oriented development at Court Street Railroad, in that, Railroad Street urban renewal area. The grant would be giving us funding for a strategic planning study similar to the parking study we got last year. If we are, successful in obtaining the grant, which does require a 50% match, the match is $37,500. I'm working hopefully with, ESD to see if we can use maybe other funding to match it, but we do need to do a resolution for next Tuesday to commit to the funding. These things, and I have one more that we
Yeah,
didn't.
there's a yearly deadline for it, so everything has a deadline on the 27th of July, so you get a
Coming up.
once a year
Yeah.
shot to apply for this stuff.
So, understanding that it is an expensive endeavor, but we can't get the funding to do the project unless we have the plan, and that's always our dilemma. So when we find strategic planning money, we like to get it because it gives us the plan, and then we can leverage that to get the next layer of funding. And, attract people, do a project. So the TOD we're working with Nelson Pope and Voorhees on, they did the BOA, and this is
Right.
discussed in the BOA, and it's also discussed in the East Main Street Urban Renewal Plan, our comprehensive plan, and it's been discussed before at length. So we're gonna see, the total cost of the study is $75,000, we think that, it's a good idea based on our meeting, recently, and some of the encouragement we got from Empire State Development. So that's one reso in your packet, and I just hung up the phone with Michael Reichel, I don't know if he's.
Easier.
So the next one we're gonna give you a reso for, another one, which would be it's another strategic planning study, though it's through, the DEC, it's environmental planning grant.
Hi, Michael.
So you can take it from there.
I'm just gonna interrupt for 1 sec. One of the things on the signs here, and I don't know if it can be worked in here, but a lot of times when people are coming down Main Street, they turn on Peconic Avenue to go to the traffic circle.
Okay.
Is there any way that we could put some sort of signage to let them know if they go further down, they can still get onto the expressway that way? or even head east that way without going to the traffic circle, so you don't have that backup up Peconic Avenue with the double
Yeah.
light there.
Yeah.
It's much easier to go down and make the turn by the
Agree.
Historical Society, so if we
Yeah.
can maybe direct some traffic that way with a sign,
That would be more of a
Traffic
state
control
road sign,
yeah,
right?
I don't know if we would put
Four
it on the,
ninety-five with an arrow
on the
going straight
wayfinding,
ahead.
but something to talk about, you know, that would be a good idea.
If there's a sign going over there, maybe if
Okay.
it could be added, you know,
And the
to
double
points,
traffic
to points
circles.
west,
Access to 495 or,
or, you know, to points west, or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
however you wanna, but
Okay.
just,
The double
or
traffic circle.
alternative access or something,
yeah,
right?
cause instead of, cause you know, people sitting there waiting for the light, and if they're like, oh, I can go the other way, then maybe they'll start doing it.
Okay,
The double traffic circle is supposed to alleviate all that backup traffic on Peconic Avenue, so we'll see how,
Yeah, we'll see
the
how that-
county engineers designed it.
yeah,
If it's about 4 cars, to make that right, and the other cars stay on the traffic circle.
Yeah,
So,
we'll see.
hopefully. So anyway, Michael's been
So,
talking
yeah.
about a project, there's funding available for the study, he needs to do the project, which is also a strategic planning study, so you wanna explain?
Right now, what we do with the biosolids that are generated from the treatment plant, we haul them in a truck to Pennsylvania and we put them in a landfill. What the feasibility study will do is identify the other options of what to do with the biosolids for a beneficial reuse. And some of the ideas we've kicked around over the years is doing land application on sod farms.
But that's the sludge to fertilize,
Right.
okay.
Right, but, we would need to bring it to Class B biosolids to do land application. So the cost to do land application, and bring it to Class B is just a little bit less than it would be to bring it to Class A, which is under restricted use, which means that people can come pick it up and put it on their gardens, the flower gardens. We could use it for container nurseries, it would, no, it's pelletized,
Okay,
I
that,
saw
thank you
that
for clearing
expression.
that up, because I've seen what comes out of there,
Right,
it's
but-
nothing you wanna put in your garden.
No, not
Once
today.
you pelletize it,
Not today,
then.
right.
Okay.
So you need to dry it to bring it to Class A, kill pathogens, any, vector extraction reduction and all those things that you need to comply with Class A biosolids. Container nurseries can use it, we got a ton of those out here. The tree nurseries can use it, cause once they dig in and grab that ball of dirt, you look in the bottom, there's sand. And,
Yep.
and you
Right.
never get that back, so we can replenish the soil, and stop hauling the stuff to somebody else's
Great.
state, get the trucks off the road, pollution, fossil fuels, all that stuff is all tied into it. So this would be a, feasibility study to identify which way to bring it to Class A biosolids, what would be the best, which would be the most beneficial. It would be that you'd show the trade-off of what the costs are now with what the cost would be after, any of these proposals are put together. So, as Dawn mentioned, there is a match that we would be looking to, include in our, next year's budget. We get the application in now, you can always say no later, but if you don't put in, you can't get it.
And this also has the July 27th.
Same
Yes.
thing,
Yep.
yep. So we're working with H2M and Michael's office to, put it together. The match is 20%, which, if the study's 35, which is what H2M's telling us is 35, our match would be 7, and then we'd have to add the 5, so the total cost to the taxpayers of Riverhead would be 12, which we can budget for and work out, so. And we get the strategic planning study, and then we can use that to leverage to get the actual components of the plan created and built.
So Michael's next capital project before he retires.
Exactly.
Can't retire, Michael can't retire.
Maybe another award down the road here.
And has,
It's all about doing the right thing.
and has anybody else been doing this sludge fertilizer, or is this would be something?
It's done in other states. They do land application, in New York State. There are regulations already there, so we just use their guidelines. We don't have to reinvent the wheel
So
on
it's no change in legislation or anything else, it would just be able to start doing it?
Yep, we would just, change our, get the approvals through EPA and New York State DEC. There would be more monitoring, Of course, there's more testing always involved. And there would be capital improvements, so I think which we've talked about before, we'll be estimating around $2 million.
Okay.
So,
How much money do we spend a year in hauling it out of this state and bringing it to Pennsylvania?
about $500,000. That's a lot of money.
It is, and it's wear and tear on the roads and the bridges,
Yeah.
so I'm sure there's probably a lot of grant money out there for the project as well.
That's great, that'll be next, so, alright,
Good
so I'm
job.
gonna do a resolution with your permission for that, and, we'll have it.
So that will be in our packet for this,
Yeah, I'm gonna send it over by the end of today, you'll have it, it's not complicated, but I just wanna make sure everyone was aware and we're okay with it, so.
Yeah.
Alright, good, yeah,
Alright,
Good.
very good.
great,
Alright,
onward. Great, keep up the good work.
Thank you, we're working on it.
I'm actually on here for,
the wastewater pre-certification class?
yeah, what I'd like to do is, two of our maintenance mechanics, I'd like to send them to wastewater treatment plant operator school. And it's kind of a joint thing between the employees and the town. We would pay for the cost of the course, and we pay for the books. We provide them transportation, but they would do it on their own time. They do it after work. They would travel to Cedar Creek wastewater treatment plant, in Nassau County, and it's 2 nights a week. It's $1,800 per employee, and that's spread over a 2-year period, because the lab and the basic operations would be in 2018, and then the activated sludge would be in 2019. So, what we've done before is, we needed board approval, cause you give an employee a vehicle to take out of town, so, they
And we're
wouldn't.
paying for that.
We're paying for the class, the transportation, we give them a vehicle to take, and the books.
And these are employees that have been with the town for a long period of time, where they're not just gonna take their certification and go work somewhere else?
Hopefully not, there's always that, that could happen. These guys have, been with us, let's see, not a long time, maybe 6 months. So,
There's
they seem committed,
Okay.
they seem to, like what they do, and, I think they're the type of employee that's gonna stick around.
Cause we had talked a while back about, negotiating something with them, that if they were to leave within a year or 2 years of getting their certification, that they would reimburse the town for the cost of the certification course.
Right.
We never discussed it further.
No, that's more of a contractual issue, I think.
Yeah.
That would have to be worked out in negotiations.
CSEA?
Yeah,
Okay.
So we have some language and wording in
that,
there
John?
for training.
Well, the thing you could do is have them
Same thing
lay out
with
the
water
money
department
for, I
too,
mean,
same
some,
situation.
I was just gonna say, we were talking about
We
this with
just
the water
talking about
department
it at our
this week.
interviews the other day.
well, the other thing is you could also have them pay out of pocket for this and then reimbursed after 2 years of service. You could do
$1,800
something along
is a lot
those-
of money to,
Something
money
along,
for
no,
a
I think, I think to have employees that are trained, I think is important, so.
It is, and it's a benefit to the town, to whereas if you have only a certain number of employees that can do certain jobs, those guys aren't available. I mean, we're on holidays, we're on, and especially like Labor Day, the summertime, it's tough. Mark's got the same problem. And, somebody calls in sick, people are entitled to their vacations, and then, but
Then you got nobody.
you gotta keep going.
yeah,
So,
understood.
this way we have more people to,
play on words,
you know.
Michael.
You don't have, do you have a resolution in the packet? I can't remember, you don't have a resolution.
No.
When do you need this? When is,
We can do it for the next meeting.
okay,
I just wanted to get in on a
Update.
work session.
okay,
So
very good,
I'm not gonna rush that through.
okay, very good,
Alright.
thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Alright, so we'll go on to resolutions.
Let's talk about water. My bladder is well.
Alright, everybody got up? We need a minute.
1 second, yeah.
Came in late, I don't know if you guys got this one,
Yep.
put it on the bottom of your pile, pass that down, thank you.
So Gio here.
Okay, authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 231 entitled Fire Prevention of the Riverhead Town Code. Authorizes funding application to New York State for consolidation funding application CFA for strategic planning and feasibility studies, round 8. Extend bids for proposal of town-generated construction and demolition material. This was, for Crown Recycling, a renewal.
declares personal property highway truck is this the same thing?
I don't think so. Is it, no, this one talks about the school district.
Okay.
This one is.
Declares personal property highway truck surplus obsolete and authorizes a sale to Riverhead Central School District.
Yeah, we're selling some trucks to Riverhead School.
Okay. Authorize purchase of, 2019 Altech bucket truck for use by the town highway department. Promotes an assessment clerk. Accepts the resignation of a,
Do that last time?
No, we talked about it,
No.
but we never put the resolution through.
Okay.
It was
Time to
Jim.
post the public.
Okay.
accepts the resignation of a water treatment plant operator 2B. Appoints a recreational leader. Appoints a water treatment plant operator trainee. Appoints a water treatment, what was that?
I said you were moving.
I know.
Oh, sorry. I'll go
that's
second.
okay, that's okay.
Appoints a water treatment plant operator trainee. Authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend a chapter 301 entitled Site Plan Review, Application Procedure Fees of the Riverhead Town Code. Authorizes the town clerk to publish and post notice for a public hearing on a special permit application for the Glass Greenhouse LLC, Bistro Edition, 1350 Main Road, Jamesport, New York, Suffolk County tax map number 600-68-1-20. This is rejects bid proposal and authorizes the town clerk to republish and repost notice to bidders for signage utilized by the town of Riverhead. 14 is ratifies the appointment of a seasonal recreation aide to the Recreation Department.
Just if we could go back for a second
Sure.
on number 13,
Yes.
to reject the bids. I'm not happy with what happened
Yes.
and how it happened, and I think that's something we certainly need to address,
Yes.
because this isn't the first time, and it put the town in kind of a precarious position. So, I think, as a board, we need to be aware of it. I don't know if everybody on the board is aware of it.
I'm not aware of it.
And,
We can address it in,
Right, it would have to be in an
executive session, so I will add that to the,
I just wanted to mention it.
I
Why
will
is it
add
contractual?
No,
No,
personnel.
personnel.
I will add that to the executive.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tim.
Alright, I think I'm up to 15, right? Appoints a call-in recreational leader to the Recreation Department, that's number 15. Amends terms of employment for a part-time legislative secretary. That's, decreasing hours in my office. 17 is authorized town clerk to publish and post public notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 301 entitled Zoning and Land Development of the Riverhead Town Code. This is the mortgage that we spoke about at the last work session. The fee that we put in on this was, biannual at 200. If everybody just could take a look at that, that's on D in section, 301-350, is everybody okay with that fee? This was the registration fee that we talked about.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the local law we have to do before we can actually put out an RFP for those services after that presentation we had, the work session or the other two.
Bob, I just have a question on this one, would you just come up for 1 second? The company gets a, you okay? Oh,
$100.
it's, what?
They take $100
Is it for each fee or once a time a year?
each time.
Each time,
Yeah, so if there's 2 fees paid per year, they get $200
okay. And this is?
per parcel.
Per parcel, and this, it seems to be the going rate that other towns are,
That's what Babylon's
Babylon's
done,
doing, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Can I just go back to number 16, which was amends terms of employment for a part-time legislative secretary? I thought that she was making the 20,000 or less for 17 hours a week, and now we're dropping her down to 15 hours a week?
No,
for the same-
15 bi-weekly, 7.5 a week,
Well, it says 15 hours per week.
per pay,
and
per
or
pay,
30 hours per pay period.
per pay period.
Says by
That's what it was,
And the salary is the same, 20,000?
No, it drops in half. She's doing half the amount of hours, she's going from 30 bi-weekly to 15 bi-weekly, and dropping the salary by half.
It says it down here, 10,000 annually.
It says the town board set the terms and conditions, okay, so it's set, and part-time hours be reduced to 7.5 hours per week, and or 15.
Now therefore it be resolved, that's the change,
I always bring it back.
is the amendment.
Okay, so it's 10,000 annually?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alright, so we're up to 18.
Yes.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute a fourth addendum to professional service agreement for placement of commemorative items at Grumman Memorial Park.
Wow, Pat still wants to do that, good
Yep.
for her. That's great.
Authorizes to publish advertisement for police department accident report retrieval service. This is to change it over to a computerized, internet-based application to input the information for accidents. And then there's a fee that will be paid, also to the town.
For receiving copies of the accident report.
Let's see where, these,
And does the fee cover the cost?
yes, it's, but it's
And
public
insurance
also,
companies,
yeah, public
okay.
and insurance, that's what I was just
Public,
looking, yeah. So if they need it for their insurance.
And collision
Yep.
mapping for a fee to be paid to the town. Yeah, does the fee cover, do we know?
Well, we don't know, because this is to advertise for the,
Okay.
we'll
Okay,
see when it
right.
comes back in.
Right, okay.
Authorizes senior services to utilize New York State Office of General Services for contract, number PS 67902 regarding Language Line Services, Inc. for language interpretation services. John, I know I had asked you, this is a separate, this is part of, you have to agree to do this for the,
So Suffolk County requires us to have a contract for translation services, Suffolk County Office of the Aging. So I believe.
there's a fee per use for the service. We were just trying to find out if the language line that the police department is using is similar, and can we piggyback, the two of them together? I'll just clarify
Yeah, we'll clarify
that,
with Judy.
because I just don't know if there's an initial fee, or the other price is lower, but just wanna find that out. Town board declares lead agency and authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice to consider a change of zone from industrial A to industrial C use district for real property, more particularly known as Suffolk County tax map 699, .0 dash, 02.0 dash 27, and Suffolk County tax map number 117.0 dash, 01.0 dash 2.7.
So,
I'm gonna ask Anne Marie to come up, because she's been,
this is on
Yes, please.
Edwards Avenue and 25, but
correct,
it's on the west side of Edwards Avenue, which is all industrial C,
it's on
and
the
then,
east side of Edwards Avenue.
I have a map.
Yes,
which
oh,
might be
thank you, I
helpful.
was, yeah.
And, I'm sure all members of the town board are aware of that intersection and how it's not actually,
Great.
it's slightly skewed
yeah,
to the side.
it's crazy, when they built the FedEx building,
Yeah,
the state should have taken
so-
advantage of that.
I have my little map that Joanne pasted together for me. So first I'll highlight it for you. So we're talking this and this. This is where, the Crossroads restaurant was. This is currently vacant.
And this side of the street is industrial A, the east side is industrial,
Yeah, believe it or not.
Yeah, east side is industrial A, west side's industrial C.
So,
but all
Councilwoman
the
Kent, I'll
uses in
just
industrial A
show
are
you.
permitted in industrial C, so why are we doing this?
No, not true.
Which
This
one
is
is not?
This,
Well,
it's this area
in
here.
the resolution, I actually recite
This
for
map and
you
this map,
the
okay.
uses.
This is Crossroads.
In industrial A, you have vocational schools, warehouse, lumber yards, auto body shops. In industrial C, unlike A, offices, which are not listed.
Greenhouses.
Yeah, so the desired use, for this particular, property, the 2.7 that's undeveloped, is for
An
an
office
office.
building. It always was.
This is an empty one, this is the crossroads,
It only makes sense,
this area here.
I don't know, I know that the Calverton Civic Association had a lot of concerns when it came to the zoning of the master plan, because they were concerned about traffic, and I think that an office building will create a lot more traffic than the uses that are permitted in industrial A currently, and it's a bad intersection and a bad road as it is, as far as traffic is concerned, so.
Exactly, Councilwoman. So if I could just finish. No, seriously, no, 'cause all great points raised. Number one, I have provisions of the master plan here which supports if the town board desires to move forward with it. The owner of this property
Which is the one
will
that
be,
abuts
Right. So
25
if you
and Edwards.
will be the owner of this property. I
That's
have,
the, electronic,
Yeah,
correct.
Payments.
payments, credit
Correct.
card payments, or.
It is not, quote, customer related. In other words, customers don't come in to pay
Right,
bills.
right.
It
Right.
simply
They have the
actually
machines.
holds the electronic. What he is willing to do
okay,
is he is willing, and, we actually met with Dick Ehlers and Stan Carey, the chairman of the planning board, just so everybody can kinda have a first look and anticipate what the goal is. He is willing to actually convey this to the state of New York, for the state of New York to actually reconfigure the intersection.
would be great.
And make turn lanes.
'Cause the
So the
traffic patterns
goal
all the way
is
up to
he'll
here.
relocate,
yeah.
this, he has plenty of room on this site.
Mm-hmm.
He would relocate the machines that are currently here, place them here.
yep, no, I get it, I'm
And
very
there's a
familiar with the
meeting
business.
tentatively, being arranged at this point in time with, Senator LaValle
Yeah,
to try
make
to
sure, move forward with
get the
it.
state to move forward, because the town board's well aware, this intersection, even when it came
It's
to
crazy.
the subdivision of EPCAL, has been a thorn in the town's side with
Correct.
respect to the state, and who's required to improve it, and actually, carry the financial burden. So,
And that was one of the impediments when the
Right.
state had originally looked at it, was the financial impediment to access that, extra road frontage.
Understood, but there are other uses in industrial C that could potentially create a lot of traffic, even though he's not intending to have people come to and from the site. There could be, once you create offices, it could be any office where people are coming in and out of that site, yes?
Yeah, but it's only the
But t-
site that's being changed, it's not the entire.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is if he builds a three-story building and he says that it's just for my staff and there's nobody coming to and from the building, and then next year he decides to sell it and put in 1,000, professional offices or law offices or whatever, where people are coming to and from the site, then that could be problematic, that's all I'm
Jody, I
looking
think
at.
I'd
they
rather
would
deal
have
with
a
that and
secret
have this
issue.
fixed than
I
worry
think they
about-
would have a secret issue with respect to the impact of traffic for that. And if you look, and I intentionally included it in the resolution, if you look at all these properties here, they are non-conforming uses for uses in industrial C, not A. So that argument could potentially play out every single lot down the line. I mean,
Yeah,
I give you
especially
a
if we-
laundry list of them.
Sure, and
So
if we go
that's
for
why-
a zone change on this one, then those people can follow right behind them and say, we wanna do office buildings
They
here
already
also."
could make that argument.
Cause they're not
Cause it's
conforming.
already there,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
non-compliant uses.
You have the John Deere there, you have the,
But you have offices.
Miller Environmental, you
Okay.
have,
Yeah,
You have
those are
offices
all-
further down by the railroad tracks.
that's Farm Bureau and,
But those are offices.
Yeah, if Brad and I went through it, and, I wanted the opinion of building and planning on it as well. And their opinion was, Amory, it's a win-win.
it's a
And
win-win if the state agrees to make these site improvements, so
I
is that
believe
what the
I-
secra,
I believe they will.
so is that,
really do.
Is that going to be studied in Secra? The redevelopment of that intersection on 25 and Edwards?
Well, that would
I
be,
think
that would
it's
be,
already
yeah.
been studied several times, actually.
Really? I'd like to see those. The
Yeah.
studies.
Well, I can give you actually reports dating back to 2010, when the town attempted to create its recreational park at Epcot. I have correspondence this thick from New York State DOT on that intersection. Plus, I have from the master plan, the goals of Edwards Avenue, asking the town, the then town board at the time, Edwards Avenue will need to be widened and the intersection of Edwards and Sound Avenue improved.
That's Edwards and Sound.
Yeah, but I'm going to, sorry, I jumped from 25 and Edwards to Sound,
So-
running all the way up.
I guess the thing that I'm concerned with is that this is the site that the secret study is gonna be done on, correct?
Yeah,
And he owns both pieces, yes?
correct.
Are they both in the same name?
Please.
I think they will be.
So this should be studied as part of this, and any improvements for a turning lane onto Edwards Avenue headed northbound, to head eastbound on 25A should be part of the improvements of this site, in my opinion.
So, my only comment with respect to that is, I firmly believe that the state of New York is responsible for improvement of this intersection. And I would
They don't have
prefer
the money.
that the state of New York pay for any study and any traffic pattern analysis, and they study it and they design the improvements, rather than the town of Riverhead doing that heavy lift.
It'll never get done. If you make it part of this site plan application, then you can get it done now. You can get a turning lane right there, right now. And there's a pole right here on the corner that needs to be moved, there's an expense that goes
Yeah.
with that. The state doesn't have any money.
Well, that's what we're
And
going to
this
find out
isn't-
Right.
in meeting with them.
Right.
That's,
Okay.
that, they'll have to answer that
I
question.
would like to see the corner site where the crossroads was, combined with this site, and an overall site plan application with,
Oh,
you know.
yeah, there would be, any quote, development after a change of zone would absolutely require a site plan. And as I stated earlier, I initially highlighted and met with counsel for the planning board and Stan Carey. They're well aware of the traffic situation and traffic hazards here. The development here is 100% going to require a mitigation here.
Well, that's why I'm saying this parcel needs to be included in the secra, especially if he owns both
For the,
pieces.
once they submit it for development, just so we're clear, I just don't want the town to have to, quote, study reconfiguration of the traffic pattern.
We're not
Inst-
studying anything, the applicant is. This piece needs to be part of this. If you're
Right.
gonna change
Jody?
this to industrial C, then this needs to be changed to industrial C, and it needs to be looked at together, especially if both pieces are
it
owned
is.
by the
It
applicant.
is both
is.
in this in this
It is.
resolution.
So both of those tax map numbers are in this resolution.
Yeah, it's
Correct.
right in that,
Well, it's hard to tell by looking at a tax map number which parcels, cause this could be.
well, okay, well,
It is-
that's
it's
why I
those two parcels.
did this map as well. I know it's not the greatest map.
So what is
but
that
if you
tax map
say-
number?
It is, the first, right on the corner, 699-2, lot 27. The second lot, the larger lot, which is currently undeveloped, in the heading is listed at 600-117-1, 2.7.
And does it say in this resolution anything about with the intention of improving the intersection and
This resolution is just to change from industrial A, those two from industrial A to industrial C.
So-
The individual to be impacted by a change of zone, and let me just add to the town board, I met with the assessor's office to have a conversation regarding value. And the town board, probably on its own, would admit, going from a more intensive use, industrial A, to a less intensive use, devalues the property. So, the fact that, Charles Cuddy represents the potential individual seeking to develop the parcels, the fact that they have no objection to the change of zone, and the fact that they were willing to meet with planning, the fact that they have made representations that they would, quote, convey whatever was needed to the state of New York. I mean, you know, Charles Cuddy has an excellent reputation.
You're saying this is a win-win, correct?
Well, it's an issue that's been unable to be resolved for quite a few years. It's something that the planning board has been very concerned about in that area there, and this is a potential solution, to resolve that issue as it exists. And as you said, the development that is looking to happen there is for office space without the influx of traffic. It's the daily employees that are there that would remain there. And not only that, it's an expansion of jobs in our area, of good paying jobs in our area, which is something that we're trying to promote, in our area. So, you know, it's also enhances the community in that respect.
You can't even, I go through there all the time, you can't even tell they're there.
I do too, cause right now it's a very small space and they only have a few offices in there, and they do have other offices at
You
EPCAL.
don't see a lot of traffic.
No, I know, they have other offices at EPCAL, but I don't have a problem with it if it is going to correct that intersection. I just wanna make sure that the overall site plan that's submitted includes both parcels. It includes some sort of traffic mitigation at that intersection, whether it's an offer of dedication to the state and collaborating with the state to make sure that those improvements happen in a timely fashion, because it's our opportunity now, based on this site plan and how we handle it, that is going to determine whether or not that intersection gets fixed. And I don't wanna just leave it in the hands of the state and have the state do nothing with it.
Right. I agree with you, and that's why we went the extra step and met with Dick Ehlers and Stan Carey.
How?
Because the desired building here will not happen unless that
So-
building goes removed, that parking area is removed, any ingress and egress from this
So that
corner
would be
is
part of the site
removed.
plan.
Yeah.
Well, that's what concerned me in looking at that aerial, because you're not including that property as part of the site. So
Well,
that's,
but I
but it
am
is
in
in the resolution, I see it.
Yeah, well, I can't really because it's undeveloped, so this was just an aerial I had requested.
Okay, so how big of a building could they potentially build on that other site, and how many stories?
I think we were looking at 3 stories or something, 2 stories.
Because you asked, this is the potential size of the building.
How many square feet?
Help me out, someone, I'm looking upside down, so,
Office use,
total square feet is,
26, 28.
total 28.
Total of 28,000 square feet.
28,200.
It's not a big building.
No, not at all, actually, and if you
The
look
only
at
issue
the,
is these,
right,
because they can't, spill out over into this road is a private road. So they would have to spill out into
yeah.
Edwards Avenue.
So the desire is to put in an entrance here.
But didn't Millers own this property?
Correct.
And they sold it to this gentleman.
Thank you.
And he didn't get a an access easement onto Miller Road, onto that
Not
private
that,
road?
not that he has expressed that he has that.
Okay, well, I'd like to,
He said no.
Okay, but again, you know, to me, I can't answer every question for proposed development down the road. This has not even officially been submitted, because technically, this could never happen unless we had a change
Right.
of zone. We can't, quote, take this building down and essentially convert that to a vacant lot and have the present owner convey it to the state unless he knows this equipment can go in this building.
I get it, I just would like to see the traffic come out onto Miller Road, and if, I know that the Millers own that property, so I just can't imagine that in buying that piece of property that you wouldn't get an access easement onto Miller Road. So, that's all, just
Right.
because I don't wanna see another curb cut on Edwards Avenue if we can avoid it.
I'll tell you, there is a curb cut from the gas station, despite the fact that the gas
Yeah.
station lot
And I use
was
that
to
all
come
the
off
time.
that road,
Yep, and I use it all the time also.
so. But again, I think that's all within the bailiwick of the
Of
planning
the
board.
site planning board.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're okay to move forward with this
Yes,
resolution?
absolutely. I wanna get that intersection taken care of, and
Yes.
this is gonna help do that,
I think it'll be
that's most
excellent,
important.
yeah.
Right.
And so,
and that should be very clear in the zone change, hearing, that it's a consideration because of that parcel and because of improving that intersection, so that we don't see the whole east side of Edwards Avenue turn into industrial C.
but my point to the board is, it's already being
used as
utilized
industrial.
pursuant to industrial C,
But it's-
all of the lots. I
But
went
it's
through it with Brad.
pre-existing non-conforming,
Yeah,
and
but
But it's working.
And why wouldn't we, so I just asked this,
But wait a second,
because I
the
review the
whole-
master
the
plan
whole
all the
west
time.
side, the whole west side is zoned industrial C. So even though it's working on the whole, east side, I mean, we just had a public hearing not too long ago where you both expressed that, you know, pre-existing non-conforming uses are supposed to expire after a certain period of time,
But
and now
nobody's
you're.
coming in for site plan changes there, nobody's
get
coming to
it,
change
but-
their uses there at all.
And
Or
so,
expand.
my point is, when I look at the master plan really doesn't advocate keep intensive uses in that area. It actually, when you read the master plan, it tries to quote, and I'll email the town board members the different sections of the master plan. It seeks to bridge recreational uses at EBCAL with, down to 25, and then down to the Long Island Expressway. It attempts to bridge it. It also, interestingly, tries to preserve the rural character of the farm stands, the garden centers. So, in part, I can't fathom advocating to maintain industrial A in that area, particularly because the other point I'll point out to the town board members, which you probably already know, driving down Edwards Avenue, you have homes there as well.
No, I know that they've been trying to convert
Right,
into
so-
offices.
No, you have, you know, residences, people living there
Yeah.
in homes, so why? I just can't fathom advocating to maintain a more intense use in that vicinity.
Well, agricultural production is a permitted use in industrial A, so I don't understand what you're saying in that, I mean, the uses in industrial A are much less than they are in industrial C, as far as what has been proposed as my sitting with the planning board for the last 8 years as to what's been proposed in industrial A, that everybody's trying to get office buildings on both the east and the west side.
Industrial A is a more intense
Intensive industrial
use.
use.
Yeah, but nobody's using it for that, except for
You're-
the school
exactly,
district.
exactly, that's my point.
But they went for a use variance in order to get a permission for a bank and for a, pharmacy, I think that they wanted on this same property, bank and pharmacy, they went for a use variances and they got them. So now we're trying to change the zone rather than having them prove that the use is not conducive to the site through the zoning board of appeals and a use variance, which is difficult to get. I just think we're opening a can of worms to a certain extent, and I'm concerned about the traffic along that whole corridor from the Long Island Expressway to 25, and I'm concerned about what that corridor could turn into once we start making these zone changes. Just my opinion.
Right.
And I think that going to the zoning board of appeals for a use variance is a more, difficult task to do than changing a zone, proving the use variance. And they already got a use variance on this site for offices, and for a bank, and for a pharmacy, from the zoning board of appeals.
This entity did not.
I know this entity did not, but the zoning board of appeals already approved it on this site. So why are we changing the zoning?
Well, I think that's why we'll vote on it. It's in the packet, and then we can vote if it's something that the board wants to move forward or not.
I think the Calverton residents are gonna be not happy, just my opinion.
We shall see, I mean, that's why we have the,
Right.
that's why it's a resolution, and that's why people come in and get to comment on it.
Right. I don't know. My thought is, an office space housing electronic equipment versus a concrete plant.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to always be an office space housing electronic equipment. It could turn into medical offices for Northwell Health. It could turn into anything,
Well,
once it has an office use.
I believe, through the site plan process, there would be restrictions, limitations, and covenants placed on the property. And, quote, the fact that somebody else may come into ownership of the property doesn't mean they have a right to, quote, simply transfer that use. They would have to go through site plan process.
If we change the zone, they're entitled to any use within industrial city.
You have to make application and you have to apply for site plan. It's not an
Okay.
identical use, what you're describing.
I'll be happy
We're
to
gonna vote on it,
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's,
well,
Thank
I'd
you.
like to just finish talking before I get cut off, so, I mean, I would be very curious as to see what our environmental analysis has to say about this before we publish and post for SECR. I'd like to see what his, preliminary, report is on this before we actually publish and post it, and listen to what the public has to say. I'd like to be well-versed on his opinion.
Well, this is just
That-
declaring lead agency and to publish and post, so that can all be done after that.
But
Once
that-
we've
but
declared
that
ourselves
said-
lead agency, then we can do that.
But that said, you and I can certainly meet with Jeff Seaman. Why? Because trust me, we have sat down 3 times and gone over this and looked at the potential, so absolutely.
Okay.
It's not like, we tried to do all the homework on this ahead of time, so, absolutely,
Okay.
that's good. And then,
And
I
he's
just.
merging 2 offices in town that he has right now, so it's gonna be the same number of employees, he's just moving them into one location, so.
Yeah.
And that makes sense,
Right,
but I'd just like to know what the environmental impacts are, and I'd like to
Right.
see that intersection get improved along with this.
right,
Well, that's all part of the secret for the site plan, for sure.
right.
Thank you.
And maybe because you're such a strong advocate, you would wanna work, with the, state on the reconfiguration.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That has to get done.
Right,
Thank you,
Excellent.
Anne Marie.
All right, thank you.
Anne Marie, thank you.
Resolution 22.
Right, chief?
Application, approves the application for fireworks permit of Jamesport Fire Department on Saturday, July 21st, 2018. 23 is approves chapter 255 application of National Home Finders M&D Properties, Inc., movie Under the Stars at the Shops, August 11th and 25th, 2018. 24 is approves the chapter 255 application of the Mexican Folkloric Dance Society of New York, Living Bull Riding Rodeo Festival, Sunday, August 12th, 2018. 25 ratifies the approval of chapter 255 application of Home Depot Development of Maryland, Inc., plants, annuals, and tree sales, June 26, 2018 through July 30th, 2018. 26, authorizes supervisor to issue a letter to Riverhead Solar Farm LLC pursuant to section 487 of the real property tax law of the intention to enter into a contract for payments in lieu of taxes, pilot. 27 is authorizes town clerk to publish a public notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 251 entitled noise, public nuisance and property maintenance of the Riverhead Town Code, bamboo, hopefully
Hold on.
third time's
Yes.
a charm.
One more time. We listened to, we worked with everybody, we tweaked it again.
I actually know that Rodney Anderson did look at the revision and he seemed to be okay with it.
Yes, I'm excited, I think.
Diane will be happy
I
not to
think we're gonna
publish
get this
that
through.
one again. 28 is authorized town clerk to publish and post a notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 271 entitled Buildings, Building Construction Improvement and Housing Standards of the Riverhead Town Code.
And that's our blighted properties.
Blighted property.
If everybody could just, this is to publish and post, if everybody, could just make sure they take a good look at this, so that if it's not what you want to see published and post, or there's some changes that you want to it, before we put it out for public hearing, that we have everybody's comments on it, so we can, try and get those down before the publish and post.
And we did, within the code revision town, we looked at what other towns do too. We worked off of with other towns, so I hope everyone will take a look at this.
Absolutely.
And
Good.
29, authorizes town clerk to publish and post notice to consider a local law to amend chapter 301 entitled Zoning and Land Development of the Riverhead Town Code.
This is about having different vehicles all parked in front of the house.
Perfect.
This addresses, the aesthetics of the town and safety.
Thank you.
So once again, if everybody could take a good look at that.
And
Yeah.
I have to say that code revision committee's been cranking them out.
Yeah, I requested this quite a while ago, so I'm glad it's in here and being looked at. Thank you.
I don't remember that, but, okay.
30, what was that?
I'm just looking at the boats and trailers, airplanes, seaplanes.
Yeah, no seaplanes.
Seaplanes in your front yard.
Not in your front yard. Authorizes town clerk to publish and post a public notice for a public hearing regarding an alleged unsafe and abandoned structure located at 42 Zedunko Lane, Riverhead, also known as Suffolk County Tax Map number 0600 042 0.00-01-012.000. Ratifies agreement between Winship Media LLC and the town of Riverhead. 32 is approves agreement between Winship Media LLC and the town of Riverhead. 33 is Pecana Care Water Main Extension, Water District Capital Project, 3135. Number 34 is authorizes town clerk to publish and post a notice for bidders for well and pump testing, evaluation, reporting, and information management. And then we are adding an additional one, which is award bids for Town of Riverhead sale of obsolete and surplus highway department equipment as is condition. Any comments from anybody on any of the?
No, I think Tim's anxious for us to break.
Alright, so can I have a first and second to go into executive session for personnel matters leading to the hiring, promoting of employees, matters leading to the hiring of an employee, executive to discuss a personnel item, for, the bids.
What is this?
Ratify?
Oh, you know what, there were 3 in there, those actually are items that we're gonna discuss. I wanted to
Executive.
put them in the packet after we talk about them in the executive session. 2 of those have to do with the chief's executive session item, and 1 of them has to do with an item I'm gonna talk to you about.
So they're not put
Okay.
until after they're
Okay.
approved to go in.
I mean, they're gonna be the same form, as long as you guys are okay with them, obviously.
And contractual is, possible condemnation of a parcel, settlement of PERB case U 35665, and negotiations with Riverhead, Police Benevolent Association. First and second for exec,
I move we go into exec.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, we're going into exec.
Alright, I wish he had taken these